So the session is being recorded, like I mentioned. One of the really important things when it comes to business analysis is knowing your role. Your role is extremely important in the business analysis ecosystem, and you need to understand how to manage things, right? Another thing you need to remember is you are dealing with people, other stakeholders that are relevant to the success of the project. As a BA, you're not the only one that delivers a successful project. You're not the only one that is relevant when it comes to delivering successful projects. And we need to remember that. Okay. And that's why you need to understand who your stakeholders are. Okay. So starting with that, who are your stakeholders? You need to understand who they are. A proper stakeholder analysis is not something you should do. It's something you must do. Okay. Another thing is how to manage the project. Okay. Or how you interact with the project management office. So the PMO, the PM themselves, and other people, other professionals within the PMO office. That is something you also need to understand as a BA. Okay. And these things that we have here are tested. Maybe not all of them at the same time, but they're tested in your interview. Okay. How do you interact with the PM? If there's no PM on the project, how do you manage such a project? These are interview questions. How do you tell me about your experience working with Agile? How do you interact with the developers during development? Tell me about your role when development is happening after you have managed the backlog. Tell me about those are valid questions and they're valid interview questions. You need to know how to answer those interview questions. Quality assurance. How do you know what you are meant to be delivering is being delivered? How do you ensure the benefits that we have talked about at the very beginning of the project space is something that is, again, being delivered? How do you ensure that that is happening, right? That is part of your job when it comes to delivering successful projects as a BA, okay? So please remember that, again, it's not just you, right? You're working collaboratively with other team members. And so it's really important that you understand your job and how you ensure other jobs happen. Okay. When it comes to business analysis, these four are important. And I'll talk about them as we go along. One is understanding the right problem, because that's where it starts from. If you don't understand the right problem, you're not going to analyze your stakeholders appropriately. You will think you are, but you're not. So understanding the problem, which is your discovery, is extremely critical. Do not rush it. Statistics say that if you have 3 million, for example, allocated to a project, so a project is £3 million has been allocated to a project. If you do good requirements analysis, good discovery, more than likely you would end up spending £3.6 million. But if you rush that process, you will end up spending £5.84 million on the average. So an extra, at least the minimum, 2 million is added when you have poor requirements management, that entire requirements management process, right from your discovery all the way to your analysis. So it's really important you know how it gets done and you know what you're doing. Okay. And then you need to analyze your requirements and know what analysis means. All right. Your gap analysis, your SWOT analysis. How are you using them? Is it only gap and SWOTs that you need? Again, it depends on the project. But most importantly, how do you ensure that whatever activities that you are carrying out actually does lead to successful delivery? All right. And then, of course, collaborating. When you're answering questions in an interview, a lot of the time we forget that you should work collaboratively. And if I've ever worked with you on interview prep or in any session at all, I would tell you, please don't go about saying we. Don't do that. However, because you're working collaboratively, you should know when to say we. You should know how to weave in stakeholder collaborations. You must know how to do that. Because if you're not doing that properly, what is happening is that you're showing that you have a silo way of working, and that's your mindset when it comes to working. And as a business analyst, to be fair, project teams, it's collaborative working. All right. And then, of course, how do you know you're delivering the right solution? Validation. Again, stakeholder engagement, your sign-offs. right? Do you have those woven into your entire process plan? That's really important. You don't validate at the end, you validate at every single key stage. And it's important that you do that appropriately. And of course, realizing the benefits, which is something that I said right at the beginning when we started to talk about this. Okay. So please remember you're a BA and all the people you're going to be collaborating with are critical within your project space. Now, the degree to which you collaborate, the degree to which you make decisions depends on your, let me say, pay grade, but that doesn't mean that regardless, you're not going to collaborate. Okay, so today, these are the things I'm hoping that we would learn at the end of the day. I'm hoping we'll spend just about an hour or thereabouts. And this is what I'm hoping that we would cover. I already talked to you about collaboration. Now, understanding what different teams do, different stakeholders do helps. So you know how you relate with them. Because one of the parts that you need to have as a BA is your communication plan, right? And that shows how you collaborate with different people. Yes, part of that is using your RACI, but you also need to have beyond your RACI, right? You have to have a proper communication plan, detailing what you're communicating, who you're communicating with, what their relevance is to the project, what their pain point is or their concern. That's important in your communication plan. You absolutely need to have your communication cadence, which is the frequency. Frequently are you communicating with people, with those people? It's important. What format are you using to communicate with them? Again, that's an important conversation that you need to be having. And it is part of your communication plan, right? And you have to have risks as well within your communication plan. If you're not able to reach somebody, especially if you need somebody to validate an artifact or sign off on an artifact, and you can't reach the person, what do? Are you just going to be silent? Right? All of that is important, and it's an important part of your communication plan. And if you see on here, with your project manager, the plans, they orchestrate the plans, the roadmap, all of that movement. Are you liaising with them? Are you taking a look at the project initiation documentation, the beginning of the project? Are you trying to understand the timelines from their point of view? So you know how to structure your own business analysis processes, your own business analysis tasks. If it's a tight project, right? I've been for the past 3 days, honestly, I'm tired out of even my ears are tired. For the past 3 days, I've been working with an external organization that I collaborate with. And for that organization, they put together a team of different people. Some of them are from the same organization, but some of them are not from the same organization. And what I simply do is, how do I teach them to lead better projects, to work collaboratively together, to ensure that their deliveries happen and their deliveries are successful? And that's what we've been talking about the entire day, right? And so there's been a lot of back and forth. Also, why am I supposed to be doing that? I don't think that's my job, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it might not be written as your job, but if it is an impediment to your delivery, you have to remove that blocker, right? And that's just your role as a BA. Okay, and then the product owner, of course, what do they do? Who are your different stakeholders? How early do you engage with these stakeholders? And of course, your testers, the entire ecosystem, really, you need to understand how that works and why, how you need to be collaborating across that entire ecosystem. Now, this exactly is the same thing that I've just shared with you, and it's great for you to understand it. Now, the one thing that I want to highlight, beyond all the other things that I've talked about, is change and adoption. A lot of the times I see people document requirements because I work with people. I do a lot of mentoring. I also provide on-the-job support. So there's quite a number of things that I do in the ecosystem. And like I just mentioned today, I work with organizations to, set up business analysis practice, ensure their business analysis practices are working. So when I'm not posting or, able to share on the group, it's not like I don't want to. I'm just swamped, you know. I'm swamped. There's just so much that I'm doing. And unfortunately, I can't hand it over, right? Because of, data privacy and, so many other things. So I just can't. I'm going to have to do it. My day job is a job. It can be tough. Some days really tough. And it's been, really difficult. I've literally, because I work with, I have a current cohort that is running, and I finish our sessions and I just go to bed. Seriously, I just go to bed. I can't even do anything beyond, I'm tired because it's been a really full day. Yeah. And that's the thing with your job as a BA. Right now, why did I bring this here? Change and adoption. Too many times I see people document requirements and you don't add impact, an impact assessment or an impact column to your requirements documentation. You should, even if it's a little note to say what the impact of this pain point is to the stakeholders you're dealing with. It's important because it helps you with your change and adoption process. Now, you may work in an organization where there is a huge change team, so you may not necessarily be involved, but as a BA, you would still have an input in that. Talking to somebody 4 months ago at the beginning of a project and taking a look at implementation planning right now, communication plan, you won't remember. You didn't write it down somewhere. Do you get what I mean? But if you wrote it down, it's so easy to pull that up. It just makes you a really, really indispensable project professional. And that's how you want to set up yourself, right? You want to be that person who everybody wants on their team because you always bring something different. This person will remember, oh, let me talk to Gladys. I'm sure they'll support me with that. And it's so part of this is what we miss out on. And it's important that you please remember to add this in, okay? It's important for the testing team. It's important even when you're discussing with your developers. Of course, if there's a change and adoption team, a proper or full implementation protocol around adoption, then you will discuss with them. But regardless, it helps, okay? It helps with your conversations. It helps with our transition planning as well from, this thing that is not fully ready to getting it ready, okay? So just remember to always add an impact column. And it's something that you can talk about in your interviews as well, okay? Okay, now, how do we relate project managers and business analysts? And why did I put this together? Now, the platform I was supposed to teach this, like I mentioned, it just wasn't there wasn't enough time because they had to make some changes, without thinking about, they didn't know they were going to make those changes, and it did happen. So some of this was to help people within that space know the difference between and just be able to determine how I work with the project managers and the skill sets you may have already that could help you within the project management space. And so I have somebody called iPhone. Can you please change your name? iPhone 14 Pro Max. Please change your name to, just click on rename. If you click on the three ellipses, or the three dots, you can change your name from there. So please change your name. Thank you very much. And let us, again, we're talking about being professional, right? That's one of the things. Being professional and professionalism is one of the things that I like to highlight. It's one of the things that I like to push within the community and people that I speak with. Part of that, honestly, is your name. When you go into meetings, set up your Zoom, set up your Teams. So the name that shows up is what you want people to know. It is your identity. So please don't forget that. Even when you are in a meeting, so a virtual meeting that you are part of, such as this one, and there's several of them virtual meetings, go in there as like you're not professional. When I go into some meetings, I have my name, right? So it's my name, and I would have my title as well on there, or what I can deliver, the value that I bring. Because I want because you would see those names when people come in, when you're also just looking at the screen generally. Project who you want to be known as. So please, if you haven't changed your name, kindly change your name so that we have that. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, you may already have some of these skills, and I feel like every single person has the skills. There's absolutely no way you haven't planned a piece of work, and it doesn't have to be a project. It could be any piece of work. It could be delivering a report. If you work in healthcare, it could be delivering a patient's care plan. If you work in operations, it could be ensuring that you send out monthly reports to customers or update the customer logs, update the website. It could be anything. But how do you even make that happen? Right? Doing all of that is part of planning. And so that is you showing that you have project management tools. And you do need that as well as a BA because you're going to plan your work. Nobody's going to come and do it for you and say, yes, it's time for you to do this now. It's time for you to analyze those requirements. It is time for you. Who's going to be chasing you back and forth like that? Right? We just know what we need to do, and you need to get it done. So you being able to plan yourself is part of your job, is part of your role, and it's part of you ensuring that you're delivering a successful project. At least you're part of the project. Yeah. So please don't be that person who just says this is my BA work and forgets that you have all these other skills. Okay. And so you're not talking about it in interviews, and you're just looking like somebody who is, just has a very limited bandwidth when it comes to capability and skill set. Now, this is what you do as a BA, and these are what mostly happens within the PM space. Knowing that is helpful, 100% helpful. For you as a BA, you need to understand the problem. Of course, and that's this something that if you're in the WhatsApp group, we talked about earlier on this week, I believe, was it last week? Understanding the problem is critical before you jump into the solutions. And it doesn't matter where you work. It really doesn't matter. In fact, part of the people that were in that I've been working with over the past 3 days is a software developer. So I had to ask him, why are you here? He was like, because he's not working as collaboratively as he could with the BAs. And the organization just generally wants everybody to understand what happens in business analysis and the business analysis skills. And they want them to be able to use those skills as well, regardless of their roles. So that was it. Yeah. So, and this is something that he struggled with in the program. If I give them a case study to work with, or we're looking at a specific type of area, he's jumping straight to the solutions and I'll pull him back. I'll like, no, don't go to the solutions. I need you to work from this angle first, and it was interesting just having those conversations with like I said, all those different individuals. All right. But one thing that when we finished up today, because I was able to, I know how to use my time properly. So we didn't have to finish at 5:30 today. We finished slightly earlier today. And one thing we all left that session with was the skill set, the BA skill set is a fantastic skill set. You want to be able to do all of these things, and it doesn't matter where you work. All right. So really important. And then, of course, the PM side of things, you're going to execute, you're going to monitor, right? You would work with execution with the delivery team. You're going to monitor and track that delivery, right? How successful is it? How is it going? You will be part of that process. So if you're being asked some of these questions in an interview, you should be able to answer it. How are you managing change and risks? Again, that is part of your job as a BA. If a requirement is a change happens right in the middle of your delivery, or even at the beginning of your delivery, or whatever, when you guys are doing your retro, it doesn't matter when it comes in, you have to manage it. What is the process for managing that change? Right? Where do you start? And these are interview questions, judgment questions, right? How do you respond? You can't just say, and then you use the star. You use the star every time. Let's agree. Say this. And that's it. Okay. And I don't care what you say. Seriously, star, you can't use it all the time. If you're given a situational judgment question, such as 2 weeks into your delivery, you are in a stakeholder meeting, and one of the stakeholders raises a concern about the requirements that are being worked on, and they say that requirement doesn't fully align with what they wanted, what they want, and they would like to make some changes. How do you handle such a situation? That's a situational judgment question. How will you use STAR to answer that question? Please, those of you STAR proponents, STAR. Please unmute your mic and tell me how you're going to use STAR to answer this question. I'm not saying you will not bring in the elements of STAR. I'm saying you cannot use STAR wholly to answer that question. You're going to mess it up. There's something in the chats. Okay, Beauty, you would need to register for my program to get this kind of details. Okay, I'm not going to be able to share this within the time we have. So you want to register for my program to get all of these details, because that's what I do on my programs. All right, you get that case study and you're able to work with it. Okay, so for that type of question, you want to absolutely start first by what? Talking about what is your discovery, right? What exactly is the change? You're not going to shut them down. You're not also going to say yes. You want to follow that process to say, when such a thing happens, three things guide me. The first is understanding exactly what the pain point for the stakeholder is, because they've just outlined a pain point that I'm not aware of. So I want to dig deeply into that pain point, because it could, in terms of scope, could be much bigger than what they have said in the meeting. The second thing is I want to understand this specific change or changes that they're looking at. Is it in or out of scope for our current delivery timelines or for our current deliveries initiative? If it is in scope, then of course there's a way to handle it. If it is out of scope, there's another way to handle it. And secondly, if it is, and the third thing is, if it is in scope, I want to understand how much of this is aligned with the business impact, right? What is the impact of not doing anything, and what is the impact of doing something? Because there's an impact on both sides, right? And that then you then can then say, oh, for example, when this happened, you then can bring in your example in there. But you've already showed your capability and your strengths at the beginning of that conversation. All right, so please don't be that person that feels, oh, it has to be star or nothing. There are times where, honestly, you're going to have to take a deep breath and say, what's the best answering framework for this? All right, and when it's a judgment question, you need to show your strategy, your thinking straight up from the beginning. If you don't show that thinking, you would lose points when they're grading you. Okay, so really important. All right, and then of course, when we talk about, again, just looking at both, and this is something that we all share with PMs, stakeholder collaboration, clear communication, our alignment with our requirements, because it needs to be aligned on the project side of things, on our timelines, on our budget, our resource allocation, that needs to be happening. Clear risks, our dependencies, are they properly, are we aware of what those are? Because if we're not, then that could be problematic when it comes to delivery, especially from the PM. So you'll be wondering why they're pushing on certain things. It's because they know further down the line, your output is needed in another business area, and you may not necessarily see it. Okay, which is one of the reasons why I always encourage you to review as much project documentation as is possible. It's, extra stress, but does it help you? The answer is yes. So you absolutely, you want to do that. Okay, and then of course, quality. All right, one of the tenets of project management is quality. You need to deliver a quality project. And that's the same for you as a BA. How do you ensure that quality? What is quality? What are the metrics that you're measuring when it comes to do with quality? Yeah, and again, you need to be in alignment on the PM side of things. Otherwise, you're going, so that some PMs can be dodgy. Let's agree. Yes, people can just be dodgy. Have you done your part to even ensure that you actually are delivering value? Okay, but not looking at the PMs alone. Now, when it comes to our questioning as BAs, these are the sort of things that you're looking at. But a PM, you're thinking about this. So if you're a business, somebody who's been working within the business analysis space or any space, to be honest with you, and you're going for a project management interview, these are the kind of thought patterns that you want to display in the interview, right? Because that's how they know that you are in charge of, because you literally are like in charge of the project. Do you get what I mean? So you need to be able to, deal with these kind of things. And your questions would come from, this would be most of the foundational questions that you'll be asked as a BA. And then as a PM, I beg your pardon. And then when it comes to the BA side of things, these are the sort of questions you're asking as a BA. And so what this means is, regardless, sorry, I'm just trying to change my pen color. These are the sort of questions that you're being asked as a BA. So you need to, again, when you're speaking in an interview, showcase these things. Yeah. If you're being asked about your project delivery, how do you ensure you are delivering the right solution? Hinge it around conversations around success during your elicitation exercise. Yes, and then of course, wrap up with showing that you were able to deliver success. Again, how? Your outcomes were aligned with what? Initial benchmarks that you had, right? That's what sells you in that interview. And then you pull it back to the specific job that you're looking at. I've said things about interview families, and I'm not going to go into that today. I'm going to discuss that in the interview lab. So that's what we're going to be doing, a lot of that, and just really getting deeper into how you answer interview questions in the interview lab. But if you understand interview families, I beg your pardon, question families, you would see that right here, this is a requirements family. This is also a requirements family. Why is this happening? It's a discovery family, right? That is elicitation. Who are my users is also discovery. This is also discovery. So there are questions around question families. Now, how do you know what family would be maybe the biggest would carry? So there might be one question family. You might have 2 or 3 questions in an interview from one family. How do you know which one to expect? You need to tie it back toward the interview. What are the signals in the job description? Your job description has those signals. Now, and I agree that sometimes the job description looks nothing like the job, nothing like the job. But in the interview, most of the time, your questions are going to want to prove that your skills, you can carry them forward into the job that you're being interviewed for. Okay? This, for example, is a governance family. It's a governance question. It's within the governance family. This is also a governance and benefits. It depends on how it is looked at. This, again, is governance and benefits. It just depends on how the question is asked. So we need to know these things. If you don't know these things, then you would have a challenge. Now, this is a mini challenge. We're not going to do it today, but it's something that you can look at it and discuss it. And I would share this in the WhatsApp group, something you can use to answer these kind of questions. And if a project is in trouble, what do you do? Again, it can be an interview scenario. You can be asked actually in the interview this kind of questions, or just before you go in, they might give you 30 minutes to crack into this, and then you're going to discuss whatever you come up with in the interview, right? Again, it starts with your discovery. It starts with understanding exactly what the problem is. And sometimes your discovery is hinged around these core stakeholders. Okay, because everything appears to be on track. But in that meeting, this is what we're hearing. So you need to go to each of these people to understand exactly what is going on. Okay, and that's it. You need to start with understanding. And this toolkit, I'm sorry, it's the other way. I'll share it with you guys. All right, it's something that you can use, and this really is a practical toolkit that you can use, and I'll share this with you as well. All right, on the WhatsApp group, so you have access to this. But again, this is how you're going to answer the question. All right, because what is happening right there is resistance. Yes, so in this right here, you're going to say to yourself, where is the resistance? This is the resistance. We weren't involved. This is process and resistance because it's confusing. So I don't know what is happening. Changing, this one has to do with, that's like a governance question. And so prioritization and scope is what you're looking at for that one. This one that had to do with IT. Yeah. And just knowing what is being asked. Trying to clear up slides, right? So knowing what is being asked guides you in how to answer. And that's where a lot of us BAs struggle. Not just BAs, to be fair, because I do work interview prep. I do it for several different types of individuals. And people just struggle with knowing what is being asked and answering it in a way that the panel wants to hear. It's really not about what you know. I doubt that they care what you know. How are you going to fit into this job? That's it. And once you understand that, you will be more successful in your interviews because you will showcase how you meet the job requirements. It's honestly, and I would say it's that simple, even if I know in practice it's not easy. An interview is not easy. There's so much going through your head at the same time. Some of that doesn't even have anything to do with the interview, but it's all running through your head, and it can be a really stressful period. So I appreciate that. But you need to have your anchors. You need to have ways to anchor yourself so you can respond appropriately in the interviews. And part of it is practice. If you're not practicing, you're not ready. You're not ready. There's no magic. There's just no magic. Okay, because you don't know. We can guess and say, possibly they might ask me this, but you don't really know till you get into the interview. And that's one of the reasons why your question families can be very helpful, right? Because you then have examples around those family areas. And that way, regardless the kind of question, you're immediately trying to stabilize yourself and say to yourself, where is this coming from? and you go for it. Okay. Now, what are the skills that you need as a BA? I would say these five, seriously, because if you ask better questions, then you're one step further in ensuring that you're solving the right problem. That's it. You're also ensuring that you can stay within scope if you ask better questions. If you ask better questions, you can envisage the resistance before it happens, and that means you can handle it because you have the evidence to have to tackle whatever resistance comes to you. Yeah. And again, even working with processes, optimizing processes, whatever, it has to do with, again, asking better questions. So that for me would be my top skill to BA, asking better questions. And in an interview, you can't say things like I ask good questions, but the way you would answer depending on the interview questions, I'm not going to go deeply into those today because I have the interview lab coming. If you want to be part of the interview lab, sign up for it. Okay. And then of course the second skill will be handling resistance. How do you handle resistance? Are you coming from the point of view of this person who's pushing back? Or are you making it about you? I know it can be frustrating, like this is for your benefit. They worry you. Ew. The requirement is for me. We know. Okay, but then how do you handle that resistance? Again, it will be tested in your interviews. So you absolutely need to have questions around that. And you need to be specific. How do you handle it? What, in fact, it starts first of all with who are the people? What is the context that these people have? What exactly was the pushback? You must be clear about those things. What exactly was the pushback before you now go into how did you handle it? And what was the outcome of you handling it? What did you learn as a result of that you can translate into this role? Those six. And to be fair, in any interview questions, think about these six things that I've just said. It will help. And then, of course, your process mapping. Your process mapping is not the tool, it's the thinking. I mapped a process before and I didn't draw anything. It was lists. Number one, number two, number three, number four. And we went into the workshop and they're like, no, you know what? 3 first before this. And put 4 first before this. And this thing that you have just said, we can't do both of them together because creating the case file when I upload the model online is automatic. So the way you've written it now, it's like it's 2 separate tasks. I have not drawn a model. Not one model have I drawn. Nothing. So don't put the cart before the horse. What is important and what do you need to know? That is how you need to be able to answer those questions again in interviews and doing your job. And I would always say to people I work with, don't think about the job during the interview. It'll mess you up. Even when you're preparing for the interview, don't do that to yourself. Forget the job. It might seem like it's bad advice, but honestly, it's good advice. If you think about the job, one, your mindset would be, are you sure I can really deliver on this job? Number 2, you will miss the signals in the job description because you're thinking of after the job description, after the interview. You haven't gotten the job. Can we focus on getting the job and showing that you are the right person for the job? It's what you focus on. And you're only working with the interview, with the job description. Isolate, there's too many things that you need to handle. Why are you adding extra to it? You're not doing yourself any favors. Okay, and then of course, better requirements. How do you write better requirements? How do you elicit better requirements? How do you communicate better requirements? How do you refine better requirements? All of that is part of your job, and you will need to showcase that in your interview. The interviews where you've had to write a user story, where you might be asked to do that. How would you write your user story without your acceptance criteria? Nobody might ask you that. Write a user story and an acceptance criteria. Very rarely would they do that. When we're looking at our functionalities, do you understand the fact that your functionalities are users and system? And so you're looking at a system functionality and you think it's non-functional. It's not non-functional. It's a system functionality. Do you know the difference? And sometimes this is what I struggle with when I do my 7 weeks work experience program, because my assumption is that you know business analysis when I do the 7 weeks program. But when I start the 7 weeks program, and this is not me knocking down anybody, I'm just being very factual. I just find that is not the case. And I struggle because I don't like to not teach well. I hate it. I hate not being able to deliver on the promises that I said I would deliver on. I don't like it at all. It just messes me up. I just don't like it. And if you notice, for those of you that follow me, I haven't done a lot of programs this year because I've just not had as much time as I would like. So I've had to cancel programs. I would mention that a program is coming up and I'll just be silent about it because I just see I can't do it. I don't advertise a program and hand it over. I do it myself. Okay? So how do you ensure this? Do you understand the formats? Do you know the project environment where you're working in? If you're working in the traditional environment versus an agile environment, what's needed? So Ogie says you had to run away from BA roles because you thought, exactly, thank you, Ogie. 100%. It is. Yeah, reset. That's it. In fact, there was somebody who she was on one of my programs. I'm not sure if she's here today. I haven't looked at the participant list fully. I've just been allowing people into the room. She felt that the interview she was going for, because the way they worded it, it seemed like it was going to be very heavy on process. She didn't want to go for the interview. I said, you will go for this interview. She got into the interview and they didn't ask a single thing about process. Some of those JDs, right? Their legacy. They're like dinosaurs. They just bring it out, rinse it a little and put it online. So you're looking at it, it might be absolutely different from what is being asked, from what will be asked, from what the expectations will be on the job. So don't run away from things because of tools and techniques. You will just shoot yourself in the foot. Whatever the job is, if you can think, you can do it. And I'm not saying this because I'm just trying to make you feel great. It's the reality. There's one of my somebody that I worked with on interview prep. This lady was working in a school. She had never worked in a BA environment before. Never. Do you know what she is right now? She's an integration BA. Do you know what integration is? Hey, God, hey. And it's not regular integration, adding WhatsApp, adding Calendly, and just adding this to Salesforce. No, it's heavy higher education integration. That's literally what she is. And she's winning awards at work right now. She started in February. She didn't think she would last a month. She's been there how long now? In fact, they can't do without her right now. She has greenfield projects that she's working on. Why? That's it. You just need to get in. So get in. You get in and you have the right mindset. You would, because I tell her, I'll say, babe, how much extra reading have you done today? During her training, because there will be a period of training. She had 2 weeks training. And I think maybe about 3 days into the role, I said, so what extra things have you learned about the job? She's like, oh, she was focusing on training. I said, will you stop it? To the repository. Yes, do your training, but you're not going to do your training for 24 hours. Go and find out what is going on in the repository. Have you stepped into any meetings? Are they showing up on your calendar? She hadn't. I said, don't do that. And that advice was it helped. Because guess what? You're already getting introduced before you get introduced. So you're not a blank slate. Don't stress yourself about the job during the interview, please. Focus on the interview. If you're being handed onto a new project, so you're already working within the project space, and you're being told that you're going to be onboarded onto a new project, don't overthink it. You can do it. This person I'm telling you about, and I'm using her as an example because she was working in a school, right? She was working 6. When she joined in, at some point she was like, okay, I've been added again onto another project. Okay, right now I'm handling 4 different projects, like only me, and I'm having to handle all of them. Like, you will. She sent me a message, I think about 3 weeks ago. She was like, okay, I'm feeling sad. I said, what's happening? She said, I'm handing over one of my projects to my developers, and I'm feeling so sad. I can't even believe that I'm letting go of my backlog, my requirements. I just feel like I'm losing a part of myself. Not a good laugh. When I told her, I said, read it again. What you just said to me. And she started laughing. That's it. You think you cannot do it, but that's a conditioning. Get out of that conditioning. You can. Honestly, I'm not saying it's not going to be a learning curve. For some people, it might be a steeper learning curve than for others, but it doesn't matter. Regardless of, if you buy a new toothbrush, you're going to have to learn how to use the toothbrush. If you buy a new pair of shoes, you're going to do what again? You're going to have to learn how to get comfortable in those shoes and use those shoes. When the weather changes, you get comfortable with the new weather patterns. When you move to a new house, you get used to it. So you will get used to things anyway. So why are you acting like as if getting used to a new job is something else? You're not good. It's getting used to it. Take out your conditioning and just get into it. Okay. Now, these are just project examples. And this is how you would talk about the outcome. So in an interview, for example, you want to talk about this as your context. I see that we have a chat. Thank you, Olawale. Learning how to drive. Eventually you get used to it. It might be tough, but you will get used to it if you keep at it. Okay. With business analysis, there's just some things you can't read about. You're going to have to practice. So after this session now, if there's anything that you don't know, go and do some practice work. It's not going to reduce you to one limb. Just do the work. That's it. So in an interview, you want to be able to talk about a project with this type of flow. Okay, what was the project about? Who did you collaborate with? What were the objectives? All the way down to your outcomes. That's important when you're talking in an interview. Okay, and this is another example of another one. So I'm not going to spend time talking about this. All right. Now, again, I said to you that these are important, and I put that at the beginning of the first slide. Discovery. How do you handle your discovery? How do you handle your analysis stage? How do you handle solution design? All right. How do you plan and prepare? Okay, all of that is important as part of your work as a BA, and then of course delivery. Now, it's not linear. It doesn't work like this. Straight from one to the beginning. In fact, you may never be in discovery. You may never be in delivery. You actually may even never be in solution design. You just don't know till you get into the project. And different environments do different things, right? My experience might be totally different from your experience. There's no one right answer. There's no one right way. Unfortunately, and that's the difficult thing, in an interview, you're tested end to end. But in reality, you may never do end to end, and you may never have done end to end. And which is one of the reasons within programs, I mean, I add simulation to my program. Some of it is work that I've done. I would change it, make it look a little different. But it is what it is. Yes, so there are times where you need to understand the fact that you're not going to have that end-to-end experience, and you need to pull it out from somewhere, because you have to talk about it in an interview, and you have to nail it in that interview. You can't say, well, I've never actually worked on a project before. Okay, goodbye. They're closing their books and they're walking away. So why are you here? You've never worked on a project before. Why are you here? Of course, they want to hear that you worked on a project. Of course, they want to hear that you do your discovery. Of course, they want to hear about your prioritization during your analysis. Of course, they want to hear about how you're documenting your stories. They want to hear about how you're going to move it into development and work with the Scrum team. To hear. And you're going to have to bring that. Okay, so please remember your elicitation, your requirements engineering cycle, and use that. Okay, I would say discover, analyze, solution design, and then of course planning and preparing for what this build out and eventually delivering it, and then tracking your benefits realization. Really, really important. What are you benchmarking? Why are you benchmarking it? Who are you collaborating with to ensure that you even have the right benchmarks? All of that is important. And so when you're looking at a job description, ask yourself these questions. What would they be asking? What is the problem that they have in this organization that they need me to come and solve? How will I go about it? Read more about them. What are the projects that they have in the public domains? If you dig deep, you might find something. Check. All right. And that's helpful. Check on their LinkedIn. Check on Reddit. Check on Glassdoor. Check on any of these places. There's one Rocket something. There's one job that I had to go for. I couldn't find anything about anybody anywhere. So I typed their name in, the search domain. I think it's called Rocket. I've never heard of that thing before in my life. But that day I checked it. But I found out about the people. I think it was Rocket. I don't remember what it's called, to be honest. There were no pictures, but it just gives you an overview of who. Of course, I still couldn't find everybody on the panel, but some people I couldn't find on LinkedIn, I found them there. Okay, so check. Don't just fold your arms and say, well, I've done my best. Right? And if you've been listening to me all this, how many minutes that we've been speaking, about 45 minutes now, you would understand that you don't need to have done business analysis to do business analysis. You don't. It's a skill set. And so if if you're in any of these professions right now, look at the link. You already have BA skills. Don't be focusing on the title. You already have BA skills. I mean, when I was having the conversation with the teams that I was working with that I've been working with this period, I mean, some of them were so, you know how you're shocked at your portfolio. I think that's just the way I can put it. They were shocked at the skills that they had that they didn't even realize that they had. Because I always use case studies when I'm working. If I'm working with you for 1 day or 2 days, I will use a case study because I always find it interesting to do things like that. And just looking at the case study and then being able to break that case study, pick it apart. And then, they were shocked. And that's the same thing with you. Look at this. Have you ever done any of these things? Then you already have the BA skills that are right there. Right? If you're a healthcare professional, patient focus, are you saying that you don't map a proper process? You might not use BPMN or Visio or whatever. I don't care what the tool is. But you have done it. Are you saying that you haven't improved the quality of care for somebody? Of course you have. So why are we not thinking about these examples in interviews? We're thinking about things that have never existed all the time. Don't do that to yourself. Because if the panel asks you a follow-on question, sometimes you might struggle with it because it's not really your example and you're not really prepared for it. If you've worked in customer services, because that's the one I get, but I've been in customer services. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure, 100%. If somebody that was working in McDonald's could become an SEO in HMRC, I don't see why you who's customer services cannot. It's a mindset. It's you wanting to get there. It's determination. It's your commitment to your goals. And if you're not committed, then nobody's going to get you committed. It has to be you. All right. And this is it, right? You understand needs. You understand root cause versus symptoms. You know how to investigate issues. You know how to do a proper gap analysis from where you are right now to where you want to go, looking at that gap and preparing a proper roadmap. You understand clear communication. You understand how to communicate with differing levels of understanding, technical, non-technical, digitally inclined, non-digitally inclined. You know that. That's literally your bread and butter. If you've been in the PMO side of things, so project support, or you have been in coordination, again, you have these skills, planning, governance, documentation. It's needed within the business analysis space. Maybe more in some industries than another industry, but it's needed. I keep hearing things like, when you're getting into business analysis, are you going to be a technical or a non-technical? Are you going to be a this? It depends on the freaking project. It depends on the project. You might be given a project that is integration heavy, technical heavy. You pivot, you do it. You might be given another one that is just process and enterprise. You do that as well. Sometimes it could be going to look at optimizing a space. You do it. I don't really like to put people in boxes or put BAs in boxes. Seriously. If you're in an organization that is going through heavy integration or heavy infrastructure changes, then you need to do it. So after they've changed that infrastructure, are they going to let you go from your job? Or do you think that you're not going to have a space in that organization? Are you going to do that forever? No. But then we just focus on one specific thing and you become, please, let's wake up to the real. When I hear things like that, I realize this person doesn't even know what happens in projects. Seriously speaking. There are times where I've worked in business development. I've gone to customers to talk. That's what was needed in the organization. Are you for real? Let me stay on this job. Let me stay on task. So what am I saying? Your skills are valid. Your skills are relevant. They will be needed. You don't need to have just one specific skill set. Don't do that, please. Please don't do that. No, don't do that. Don't do it to yourself. And don't do it to your organization. Because there's so much more of you that they need to see. But if you keep hiding because you think this is what they want, somebody else, right, come and do the job that you're meant to be doing. There was a lady that I did interview prep for. I can't remember her name now. Is it Sally? It's older lady. She was in her 60s. And she said to me, "Oh God, Gladys, I missed the job." I said, "What happened?" She's like, the feedback they gave her was somebody else within the in the interview. There was two of them. It was again two of them that had to that, they were trying to decide. But why they went with the other person, even if that person didn't seem to have as much experience as her, was because there were some things he mentioned when he was when he was answering his questions that she didn't mention. And she was like, "Oh, but I can do them." They were like, "Oh, but you didn't tell us." So I said to her, and I said this to her, she had the tendency to shrink herself. And she said it's because she doesn't want to seem overqualified. So when I'm saying this person has a ton of experience, a ton. They have worked within the WHO, they have worked within the UN, they have a ton of experience, and they're a financial controller, so it had to do with financial control. A ton, regional. But she just felt I need to shrink myself so that it doesn't show that I'm overqualified. And that's how she missed out on that job. Don't shrink yourself. Just read the room. Okay, you talking about your skills and what you do and your outcomes in an interview is a good thing. Please don't shrink yourself. All right. So if you have the skills, then you already have BA skills, and that's great. Everybody wants a T-shaped professional. I don't know about you, but the economy is singing songs right now. And what that means is every organization is saying, from this one individual, how can we get so much from this one person? Yeah. So you just showing that you can, and it shows that you have growth potential as well within our organization. And you're somebody that they want to keep within their space. All right. What does it mean to be a T-shaped professional? It means that you understand the collaboration, but you can also step in if you need to. And that's one of the reasons why they might ask you a question is, oh, if there's no PM on a project, what would you do? Tell us about a project that didn't go according to plan. What did you do? How did you manage it? What was the eventual outcome? Those are governance questions. Those are project management questions. And you need to be able to answer those questions, knowing that they are project management questions. So you know what to say. Yeah. So please, again, don't shrink yourself. All right. Don't shrink yourself. Okay. Now, if you're thinking about a new role or a career change, these may be some of the things that you want to, if you're not already doing them, you want to think about doing them. And please don't be so quick to, especially in comments, when I see, if you're doing a poll, look, I love AI. I can't even explain to people how much I love AI. I love it. She has been very helpful in my life, but she's not going anywhere. We are married. There's no divorce happening here. In fact, I'm in a polygamous relationship with AI. I have several of the tools that I use, and they're all working very well for me. But it doesn't mean that they become my brain. If I step into that meeting, you'll be wondering, who is this person? That's it. If I have to reply to a comment on LinkedIn, why should I use AI? Can I not think? If I make a post, yeah, I can use AI to, frame my post and then own it, make it mine. But why should I be like everybody else on LinkedIn? Why do I want to sound like everybody else? I don't want to. And to be fair, I've not really been on LinkedIn for a bit because I just get tired when I go there these days. So maybe I'll post once in 2 weeks, once in 3 weeks, because I just get tired, to be honest with you. Right? Because there's just a lot going on in there. All right. So think about your LinkedIn. How do you showcase your results? How do you talk about what you do? Are you showcasing your achievements? But you're not just showcasing them because you want to sound good. You have a goal to get into a specific type of industry, to get into a specific type of goal, to be noticed. So can we not lose sight of that? All right. So remember that. And then your CV, of course, should tell a story, an impact story. Okay. With your LinkedIn, you absolutely want to show that you are somebody that should be taken seriously. People have said when they put pictures and it shows that they are a certain race, they don't get callbacks. I've never had that issue. And people I've worked with as well have never. In fact, one of I think it was the November cohort that I had, the lady was hired straight off LinkedIn. So I don't know what you're talking about. One experience shouldn't become a benchmark for the entire life trajectory or your entire life story. Don't do that. Move away from that bad experience. Okay. I see there's something in the chats. Let me take a look at that. It depends on what you're applying for, Lawale. But I would say, yeah, sometimes you need to put in the percentage metrics. You need to be able to defend it. And let me give you an example. I was bidding for something because from time to time I like to engage with contract work, especially when I'm not too busy at work. And I was it's like a bid because you put in your CV and all that. And I was in the interview stage. And one of the questions that I was asked was, you said you were able to you when you trained, because it was a training and adoption type role. So how did you measure this impact that you moved people from, can't remember the question right now, but it was something about my 20% or 22%. And I said, oh, there's always a benchmark, right? When the team started this on the back end of things, so I'm not doing this by myself, by observing them, the way they used the system, I could see that there were drop-offs consistently across this. And so when we measured that, we realized that based on the flow and the fact that we had less drop-offs, within 6 weeks, this was what we got. So you need to be able to say what it is. You need to be able to say things like your 20% is derived from the fact that if you had 20 customers or 20 end stakeholders calling for support within XYZ number of hours, and you no longer had 20, but you had 15, that obviously is a 25% drop, right? From 20 to 15. Yeah. So those are the kind you need to be able to explain it like that. Very simplistic explanation, but it explains it. Yeah. But I would say your outcomes are important on your CV. You want to show those outcomes on your CV. In fact, your CV can actually mirror a star. Okay. I worked in this. I led the this, which is context, and your action is providing this, right? Your result is then what? Okay, so maybe not. So it would more than likely be the car or the problem part. So what is the problem? What were your action and what was the result? Is what you want to put in your CV, or the context, the action and the result is what you want to put in your CV, but you do need to put metrics in your CV. It doesn't have to be percentage. It can be the words. I reduced stakeholder friction from this to this, I reduced repeat call outs for repairs from this to this, it could be things like that. But yeah, it's something that is important. And then, of course, in your interviews, I used STAR here because that's what everybody knows. But already in this session, I've told you guys there are times where you cannot use STAR. It just doesn't make sense to use it because it doesn't make you look good. Okay, so please be mindful of that. Yeah, thanks, Ogechi. It is, it is. And the SOAR is a fantastic one to use. There's another one, Impact. There's so many of them, to be fair. And they're great. They're really good to use those tools. So know the different answering frameworks. I really like the SOAR, and I believe I think I have the TikTok video where I talked about it. Funny enough, somebody sent me a message and said they hadn't. So I talked about 3, and maybe on that TikTok. I can't remember these days. But they said to me that when they heard that, they did a bit of research, and that's what they used in their interview, and they got the job. And it was an outside IR35 role. So the guy was thanking me because he's like, I can't even. He couldn't even imagine that he was going to be earning that kind of money, right? And he just did it, and it worked. Okay. So Mojoy says that they got feedback that impacts that mention impact, personal contribution, and reflection. I'm not quite sure what you mean, but does it mean that you were able to show your impact, your personal contribution, and your reflection? If that's the case, then yeah, absolutely. You need to be able to show. So maybe or were they saying that they wanted to hear your impact, see your personal contribution, and know that you were reflective? Maybe that. And I used to get that kind of feedback, some time ago. From the interview. Okay, yeah. So what this means is you did a lot of we, and you weren't quite showing what you, Mojoy, did in the task. So things like, oh, and then we did this. You can say we because it shows that it's collaborative working. But you say, even if we worked as a team, what I did personally was to ensure this, that, right? And then always end with the impact. If you don't, okay, great. If you don't, and what this just means is that you didn't show your personal contribution. They don't quite know what you did. They know what you did as a team, but what did you do? And so you need to be able to say that. So yes, we worked as a team, but what I did, some interview panel is fantastic. They'll say to you, that's great, but what did you do personally? And then you can't do that. But some people don't. Actually, if they're interviewing a lot of people, they might not ask. Okay, so please just remember to say I. Get selfish in interviews. Show collaborative working, but tell them exactly what you did and what was the impact of what you did. They're not hiring you to just come and have fun. Okay, what was the impact of what you did? That's really important. So show that. Okay, and then based off what you did, moving forward, these are some of the things that I'm going to be using simply because of this experience that I had. That's it. And that's you tying it back into that specific job, that reflection. All right, which is what Essay has just put in your lessons learned. All right, your lessons learned need to show that I've gone through this based on what I've learned. This is what I'm bringing to this job. You've tied that in. Okay. Oh, yes, beauty. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy that Mojo posted that, which is fantastic. Yeah, you need to be mindful how you use it because it just shows that you worked collaboratively. But what did you do? I can't see you in your answer. And if I can't see you in your answer, then I'm not going to give you the job because I need you to take responsibility. Okay. So yeah, it's fantastic. All right. So yeah, so these are the sort of things that you want to be able to do if you're in the job search. Um, and try not to share generic examples, okay? Look at your current role. If we scroll back to this slide right here, you've done some of these things. Use some of these examples. You'll be shocked at how well it would land with the panel. You'll be shocked. Use it. It's non-generic, and it does showcase the skills that you have those skills. Understand your value. Research your target very well. Don't go in there like a blank slate. If it's possible to have commented on some of their posts, send the message. They will read the message. Don't worry. They might never respond to you. Doesn't mean they haven't read it. Send it anyway. All right. And then upskill. Know what you need to know, why you need to know it, and what part of it you need to know. Sometimes you don't need to know everything. Actually, many times you don't need to know everything. I would share part of the slides with you, not everything. Okay. Everything. But I'm recording this and I'm gonna load it up. So not everything. Yeah. But some of it, like I've said, that I would share, I would 100% share. Okay, please don't guilt trip me. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be guilt tripped. I'm sorry, okay? You're not getting me that way. Okay, and of course, I've mentioned to you that I run programs. I'm not sure I'm going to do the 7 weeks. My next 12 weeks starts on the 21st of August. I don't know if I'm going to do any other one this year. And of course, I'm starting with, I do have the interview lab starting next week. Next week, on the 14th of August is when interview lab starts. So yeah, it's something that you want to. So Mojoy, it has to do with the job description. Okay, you need to be able to decode. Let's see if we have enough time. I might pull up a job description and look at it. But Mojoy, you want to join my interview lab, okay? Because these are the things that you would learn in the interview lab. And this is a little bit about the interview lab. It's £230 for 6 sessions. That's 6 fantastic sessions. I don't do talk in my sessions. It's practical. If I've done interview prep with you, you know what it is. I do it. I don't do it because I want you to not get the job and come back to me. I don't actually want you to come back to me. Do this thing and know the job. Yeah, then of course my BA experience, the work, so 12 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months sprint starts on the 21st of August. All right. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you want to learn about those things. Now, how do you create value? Understand this, focus on what matters, collaborate, and measure success. And these are critical for your interview. Critical where you're answering your interview questions. Really important, okay? And then, of course, we add value in these areas on our projects. And that's what leads to better decisions, stronger and more meaningful collaboration. You ensure successful project delivery, and you become a gift that just keeps giving. All right. With business analysis, it's much more than just writing documentation. How do you enable successful project delivery because of the work that you do? Okay. I love this quote by Peter Drucker. It's one of my favorite quotes of all time. The best way for you to predict the future is to create it. And you start building today where you want to live tomorrow. You don't start building tomorrow. All right. So take a look at where you currently are, work like a business analyst, and take that approach to your job and say, what are the skills that I need and how do I get those skills? You need that. We all need that. Okay. All right. Any questions? And yeah, I forgot this. I'm actually building something, guys. Let me see if I can show it to you. And then we'll pull up a job description and quickly take a look at that. Okay. There's something that I'm building. I've just not had the time. It's so sad. Sometimes I wish I've had the time. And if I had the time, I would have, put it out there a while ago, but I just haven't had the time. It's a learning platform. It's a self-learning platform. But it would be more, even though you will have a lot of videos, there will be free portions. And so if you come on here, I haven't loaded a lot on it, okay, for now. Like I said, I just haven't had as much time, but it's something that I'm building. So these are locked, but these are free. Getting started. There are a few other things, goal setting. There are a few things that are free, which I'm going to still upload, hopefully within the next few weeks. But that's the URL, BA Prism. I think it's about £25 a month, and maybe about £250. I'm not sure. I can't remember, to be honest with you, because I haven't really come back to look at it since the team has been working on it. But it's about 230 for the entire year for your subscription, and you have access to every single course for that, plus interview prep sessions, all sorts. There's quite a bit that I'm putting on here. And then we have sessions as well, weekly catch-on sessions or bi-weekly. That will be communicated, and you can find it on the calendar. There's a forum, all of that. Yeah. So that's something that I'm building. So I'm not done yet with it. But yeah, you can already go on there and start learning for free and just register and get updated when anything new comes up. So that'll be fantastic. And yeah, a job description. Okay, so with Mujoi and her question. Let me see if I can find a job description and just do a quick signal check. Let's look at that. Let's see. Sorry, I'm looking for a job description. I usually don't keep them when I'm done with the interview prep. I just take them away. So sorry, I'm keeping you guys waiting. I'm actually looking for a proper one that I can use, or looking for any, really. If you have a job description, you can post it in the chats. And I hope it is the clean job description. Clean in the sense that we don't have any. Okay, I think I found, no, not that one. Guys, does anybody have any job description that you can share and I can take a look at? I'm not on the chats right now because I'm in my, so if you have, just unmute your mic and let me know you put it in the chats. And
yeah, I put one in the chats now.
Okay, all right, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Okay, thanks, Mojoi. So Oge says, how about job titles? There are many job titles. Where I have been saying a lot of people should go into right now is implementation. So you want to go, I can't say that, that's strange. It's going to implementation roles. So when you hear, if you see something like implementation in the job description, I would say, please go for that. If you see things such as change as well in the job description, go for that, because these are roles for the future. So you want to already get into the change management space. With all of these changes happening, who is going to ensure that adoption stays on course? So you want to be that person. You want to look for improvement in the job description, because that is indicative of processes and just optimizing things, stakeholder collaboration as well. There could be engagement in the job description, so engagement officer, engagement project manager, change, community engagement. Again, all of that is stakeholder skills, which you will need and which you already have as a BA. I think major advice would be go for your skill set. If you're looking for work, on your job, on your when you go to the search, my advice would be take a look at, use your skills. Okay, use your skills to look. Okay, this is a really big job description. How many pages? 13 pages. What's going on? Okay, I've seen the job summary. I'm like, what's going on here? Okay, all right. So let's look at that. Mm, okay, all right. So let me share my screen and then we can look at this together. So yeah, okay, those are the kind of things that I would look for and I would advise anyone to look for, or use your skills. Okay, so type skills such as process, type in your skills such as optimization, type in skills such as engagement into where you could, because you can search by skill or by title. All right, look at the title, look at the job, what is the expectation on the job? Look at it's not just what you will be doing, but the experience they want to see. And there is a difference between both. And that would help you. So this is the job description that was shared. I'm just going to scroll down and show you what I mean. So here they said key results areas and performance. So this is what they're expecting you to deliver. And all of that is in there. This is a very heavy role, by the way. So I'll just share a few things. And then they come to give you your specification. Okay, see this experience. This is more than likely what will be tested in the interviews, this experience session, because that's what they want. Okay, the knowledge and skills are great, but if you have this knowledge and skills, it should show up in this experience. Yeah, so remember that your experience is what you need to be able to show that you have the experience in the interview. And all of these, your personal qualities and you see it's interview and application. They want you in your answer, they need to hear this in your answers. So your examples, for example, if you're giving an example, use one where you've had to manage 2 sites. So come to the experience. So experience of managing deadlines. So how did you manage deadlines across several different sites? And this involves you going to those sites to check, right? You have just woven the experience and what? Your personal qualities, okay, in one answer without necessarily answering for person, because they won't ask you questions. Also, based on personal qualities, they might not ask you that, but you want to weave that into your answer because that's what shows that you can do the job. All right, so let's go back here and take a look at the job description and see. Gosh, things is just moving back and forth. Okay. So if you come to the job description, the first thing is, so fantastic. Okay, you see that change support. That's the kind of signals that you want to look for, because this is really about enabling change to happen successfully. So you want to go into those kind of places. Okay. That's where I would want to go. Yeah, that's where I am right now, actually. And that would be my advice for anyone who's trying to move. All right. So community focused, means that you will be working within a community that may have different project environments that you need to work within. That's one signal. Exceptional quality. So this is all about them, but just look at this community. That's important. Then should have opened this thing with the other two. Okay, anyway, let's continue. To achieve these aims, because delivery, so it is about electronic patient record. Okay, so that tells you automatically that they want to know if you've had any sort of record keeping type experience. They might test that. Yep. Okay, key to success, engagement. All right, so again, how have you engaged multiple people in your delivery? How have you worked across complex environments? So complex just simply means that there's a long line of people that you are collaborating with, not just one department, but several departments at the same time, and you're running things in parallel. That's the complexity that they're looking for, because you would have this. It's engagement and involvement of service users and staff in building and delivering transformation. So it means you need to engage, you need to involve, all right, users plus. So not only are you involving the users, involving the users means training them, knowing their pain points, managing the impact on their new roles, but you're also delivering the transformation. So business as usual must not be affected. That in essence is what this is saying. Okay, so let's go on. Yep. See, it comes here to just say new comprehensive systems. Yeah. So already we're not going to pause our current work. You're going to add this on and ensure everything is working well. And what better integration for our regional health and care managers. So it's not only in one location. We're going to be looking at several different locations, which is why they were talking about a community focused project as well. Okay. So those are signals that you're looking for. Digital delivery support. So that's normal. And the role will ensure transition. So that's what I just talked about here, because it's change support. And so that means for you, you're thinking, I feel like biting this pen. I'm using the wrong tool to do this. That's the problem. I'm supposed to have used another tool entirely. So this PDF one that I'm using is not the correct tool. So it's just giving me a headache using it. Yeah, so you will ensure transition, okay, which really is managing that change from business as usual onto the new way of working. So you need to showcase that in your answers. It doesn't, and you don't showcase it in one answer. All right, you need to show that across all of your different projects that you worked with, you ensured this happened. Really important. The post holder will support specific change projects. Again, see impact. I hadn't even read all the way down. So you need to do your impact assessment, not just role impact assessment or organizational impact assessments. That is part of what they're going to be looking for and listening for you. Yeah. And then of course you come to these key holders and begin to. So that's how really you look for signals, and that would help you when you're working and planning for your interview. Okay. All right. Yeah. So no problem, Mojoy. Thank you all so much. Any other questions before we wrap up? Thanks, Beauty. Okay, thanks everyone. Thank you so much. Of course, if you want to join any of my programs this August, just let me know. Reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to sign you up for them. Yeah, so have a lovely evening. I will upload this. I'll put it up. Sponsorship. So sponsorship is a tricky one right now. And that's because there's just so much going on in the space. I don't even think the country, it's just so much going on, right? So people are worried, you know, when I say people, there's just a sense of what if we sponsor this person and then something changes, what happens? So that's what's happening. It's not like sponsorship is not still going on. There is sponsorship going on. It's almost like a needle in a haystack situation at the minute. So yeah, you want to take a look at that. Unfortunately, this price has changed, but if you were in this program, yeah, I can still do it for you on this price, but that price has changed now because the dates have changed. But let me know that you were in this session and I'll talk to you about it. So these are the costs for the interview lab, which is on the 14th. It's 230. If you sign up for this program, you get interview lab as part of it, to be fair. All right. So even if you're starting on the 21st, I will add you onto interview lab if you register for this program, because in my programs, I'm not only just teaching you business analysis. How do you land your role? What is your career? What is your mindset? What is your interview? It is part of what I teach. And so you being part of the lab is only good for you. All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. It's honestly been amazing being here. So if you're looking for visa sponsorship, don't be discouraged. It happens. I have somebody who it's happened for recently in one of the water spaces. So don't feel like it's not going to happen. It does. It will. Just keep pushing is what it is. So you want to go back to maybe not the biggies and think about little startups maybe, and you might find that you're able to gain traction in those areas. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a lovely weekend and a lovely week. Take care. Bye, everyone.